Hello everybody and welcome to our Lunch and Learn. Today we're going to do a roundtable discussions about Claris and different Claris products with several different people today. Before I get to introductions about everybody who's going to be here, there's a couple of things I would like to mention. First, be sure to comment or ask a question in order if you want us to something to talk about either now or during a future Lunch and Learn. That'll enter you into a raffle for a restaurant gift card. Now we'll also need your email, so you can do that. Supply your email with a comment or for filling out this survey so that we can get that restaurant gift card towards you. This is going to be streaming directly on YouTube, so it'll be recorded and you can watch it again in case you want to relive the excitement of the discussion. So, let's go on to introductions. I am Morbets. I'll be moderating the discussion today. Let's have other people say who they are. John, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm John Frangakis.
I am Todd Weller.
Eric Lewis.
Right. Thank you. We're going to move on to our first topic of origin stories of how we got into Claris products or FileMaker. Let's start with Todd.
Okay, yeah, so I guess real quickly, my origin story is I grew up on a farm, and I'm an electrical engineer by both education and 7 years of experience. And that was all about fixing what was broken so that you could use it. So my journey to FileMaker began when I went to work for a company that was already using FileMaker, and I started to get involved into the programming. Obviously, the programming language is different, but the thought process behind it is the same. You see what's not working, and then you figure out what the best solution is.
Okay, great. How about John?
Yeah, so my FileMaker usage or Claris products usage goes back to college, so I guess that makes me the elder here, most definitely. But in college, I took a class called Decision Sciences, and what Decision Sciences was a class essentially using Excel for decision making. And one of my first projects in the Decision Sciences class was to actually build an inventory system for a steel processing company. And around the same time, believe it or not, my family was actually getting ready to open a steel processing business. So that inventory system became the inventory system that the family business used initially. But as we very quickly grew, we also very quickly outgrew a system that was built in Excel. And I had some friends in college that were using a program called FileMaker to manage an entrepreneurial conference. And I said, well, if I can build it in Excel, let me see if I can build an inventory system in FileMaker. And it's kind of been history ever since. So
It's pretty cool. Eric.
So I joined Cross about 6 years ago. I came in as an IT and a SQL guy. Didn't take long before I started using FileMaker to try to manage some of the IT merchandise. and stuff. That's sort of how I got started with it. And then from there, I definitely dove into integrating SQL with FileMaker or converting Access databases to FileMaker. And that's sort of where my role has been for the past 5 years, give or take, for Cross. So that's how I got started with FileMaker.
Okay, great. There's different backgrounds, but all kind of merge into the same type of thing, so it's pretty cool. And that kind of leads into our next topic of how we as a company have used it, how we work, how it has improved our workflow, especially in the times of COVID and the pandemic. Can John, you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a pretty cool success story. I know it's definitely on the Cross website someplace, and it was also on the Claris website. And it talks about, Reynolds Services, which is a sister company of Cross. But in that story, it tells you how we use FileMaker for everything from checking in the lobby to managing our inventory to shipping our product. So, we really use it from the time somebody enters the door to the time a finished product leaves the door to our customers. And really what we do is we look, the nice thing is FileMaker works the way that we work, right? It's not like we've got some canned off the shelf inventory package that we're trying to figure out where we're going to stick data. So we're able to build inventory solutions that work around our business processes. So that's really nice. What's really nice is it works the way that we work. It's adaptable. It can make us think, okay, is the way that we do something um, the most efficient way to do it? And we continue to strive to find better ways to do things. And I think a lot of that has to do, especially in the last year, even if we are on site and we're not working remotely, we're trying to space out. That means that as we space out, say on the manufacturing environment, we need to take the data capture closer to where the employees are working because we're spreading those employees out. So we can't everybody going to a central terminal or something like that. So we've used a lot of things like iPads. iPads allow us, iOS devices allow us to take a data capture to really where it's happening. I won't say too much, but Internet of Things, sensors, those types of things that maybe we'll talk about later on, is another cool way that allows us to not insult our end user by asking an answer to a question we already know. If we can find that by going to an iPad or going to a sensor or there's got to be something environmentally that maybe tips us off to what the answer to our question is that we're trying to capture. Let's do that before we ask the person that's actually entering the information. So
Very cool.
it's a long-winded answer. Yeah.
That's very good. It elaborates like how Claire's products and FileMakers can be used for a lot of different ways with a lot of different technologies to help us keep up with technology in the modern day. So I think that's pretty cool. Eric, would you like to elaborate on that or talk more?
Sure. So, going in conjunction with what John said too, one of the big things we saw with the pandemic over the last year was just getting rid of paper processes at even our sister companies or other external companies and trying to improve workflow processes quickly so that we can have people work safely and efficiently during this pandemic. So FileMaker's definitely made it easy with that. If you're not obviously familiar with the development on it, it's pretty rapid, it's easy. So it did not take long for us to develop solutions that worked for our customers so that they could work better with the space between them working remotely, as John said, or spacing out everybody so that they are safe. So that's really been my use of FileMaker, and it's been great over this past year with the pandemic, being able to get everything up and running for our customers and improving those workflow processes. And it's something that'll carry into the future as well, making things more streamlined and FileMaker's definitely played a huge part in that for us.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And like you said, the rapid development and application of things helped us be able to make things safer and spacing things out. So I think that's pretty cool. Todd, you have anything like to add?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I probably since the very beginning, I would say FileMaker has always given you 2 or 3 ways to do a particular task, regardless of what that task is. So as you're, building your solution and coming up with how you want to adapt it, you have a lot of flexibility that you can try. Method number one, and if you find out that that doesn't work, um, either for the end user or just for the business rules that you're trying to enforce, you can change it quickly. We've already kind of alluded to that, so you can change it quickly and move over and try that that second method or third method, and you're not locked into the first way you try something. You can adapt quickly, if necessary, if what you're trying to do isn't quite what you want it to be. And I mean, we already talked about, just being able to convert things and get them on iPads. We've already talked about that too, has been, a great tool. Even before the pandemic, we were trying to eliminate as many, paper processes as possible. And so that, keeps everybody on the same page. You're not looking for a form because it's, on the device. You're not, you'll lose it, those kinds of things. So, yeah, I guess that's all I have to add. It's just, you can solve a problem quickly is what it boils down to.
Yes, and not only solving a problem quickly, but in various different ways, like you said, whatever matches our processes. That helps make efficiency, like you said, getting rid of paper, and anything of getting rid of paper and moving things electronically, that would automatically moving faster. Now, with the things of new technology, what about the newest? I want your thoughts of the newest Claire's components or features that you appreciated most. Let's start with Eric.
Sure. So Claris Connect has been a pretty sweet tool. It's something that we use in a couple of our solutions to tie in with external applications that help with texting. So we could do like texting of campaign ideas and things to our customers. What it does is it'll use the information from FileMaker, send it to the external application, and then it works as a service to easily streamline all of those features so that we get things delivered to the customer. That's just one very small example on how Claris Connect can be used. That's how we use it. One of my other favorite features is JSON. It's been a big change in how we develop completely, being able to pass blocks of information easily from one script to the next. I'm sure Todd will talk more on this as well. He's another person who loves JSON. But those are two of the biggest things I think for me that have recently come out that have definitely been beneficial.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what Connect does, like the example you mentioned, so that's pretty cool. And I've used JSON a lot, so I found different ways for using it. But I'm sure, Todd, if you want to talk more about JSON or whatever else you like.
Sure. I would say, JSON is actually one of those features. When FileMaker first announced it, I wasn't as excited, only because we weren't really integrating with those external web services at the time, and I didn't really understand, what it was or what I would be doing with it, because it's like, well, everything is all pretty much internal for the projects that we had been working up to that point. And so once I really understood what you're able to do with JSON, with this idea of having the name value pairs, that probably 95% of the time that I use JSON, it's just to keep track of information within my own scripts and solutions. I'm not even sending it out to that external source, just because it's a lot easier to manage one JSON object rather than 10 or 15 or 30 different variables over the course of a script to pass information around and keep track of things. So I really like that. And there's a couple other things that I'm just starting to get into to understand what that's going to allow us to do, and it all comes down to that ability to adapt quickly. The first one is the new add-ons that are available through the Claris marketplace, where someone has developed this very robust feature set of things. It could be one small thing or it could be a larger solution, but then you're able to take this add-on and include it in your solution without having to go through and do all of that development and understanding all of the technology behind it. I mean, of course you have to understand enough to be able to integrate it with what you have, but then it cuts your development time drastically, and you're able to get that feature out so that your users can take advantage of what that is regardless. And it kind of goes along with the add-ons is just this ability to use JavaScript in the web viewer, is another feature that I think we're all anxious to really fully embrace and start using, because you have these large libraries of JavaScript that have solved problem A or problem B. Now you're able to grab that code, running inside a FileMaker solution, and then all of a sudden your FileMaker solutions have the benefits of this huge JavaScript libraries that are out there and available on the web. So those are a few of the features that I'm certainly excited about learning more about and really getting to integrate.
Very cool. Like I said, JSON is really great, especially with organizing, like you said, and scripts and add-ons. Those came in a few years ago, in which people didn't really talk too much about, but with the newness of being able to create your own add-ons, and especially with JavaScript, it makes it really great to see what comes of it and what people can develop with that. Anyways, so John, what are you excited about? Any of these things or something else?
Yeah, geez. Well, I love technology, right? So I'm always asking my developers to do crazy things before it seems time to be able to do that. So that's one of the reasons I love Claris Connect. It really allows us to extend the functionality of our different solutions. I love, Todd, the first project that Todd and I ever really worked on in FileMaker together was automated packing slips when something left, our dock door. And I said, here, I don't know, you don't really know FileMaker and you don't know this, but here's the system and make this do this. And he said, okay, so now we can quickly integrate with lots of things, whether it's Twilio for texting. It's just this whole world has opened up to us with Claris Connect, that we can rapidly expand the capabilities of our solution. So I really like that. But I guess the other thing I would come up with, and I don't think anybody's mentioned it yet, is FileMaker Cloud. I really like cloud, the thought that I've got a secure hosting environment that's out, and really then can be accessible to any of my workers. We manage a lot of on-the-go sales team, and being able to give them better access to data, real-time data, and not just say PDF reports that came out in the middle of the night. I like the fact that we can make that type of stuff available to them, and I like that we as developers have more control over the environment, right? We don't have to wait for some IT guy hiding at a desk in the back of a server room to go ahead and do something with a VMware solution. For us, I like the fact that we've got pretty much control over the entire environment, and we can say we know it backed up when we wanted it to back up, and we know that the people that need access to it can have access to it when we need them to. So yeah, I think those are just two examples of things that I really appreciate that Claris is doing, and how we can use it.
Yeah. So it sounds like Claris has a lot of great new components and features that you're excited about, and thanks to you, John, that we can go around and play with and see that one of them being connect and being able to connect to other different applications that filter into FileMaker, and also especially cloud, which, like you said, it gives more stability and access to different clients in every day. So that's pretty cool for us to be able to offer them. Yeah. So speaking of something sort of new to Claris, kind of wanted to get your thoughts on Claris Engage, and which I will start with Todd.
Claris Engage, I mean, it's been interesting because, of course, things, I mean, it was the name was changed whenever FileMaker Inc. became Claris International Inc. And so that became like the conference for developers to get together and exchange ideas and stuff. And so, of course, last year it was very different because it had to go all virtual. There was nothing in person. Which, I mean, the content itself was great for Engage, but as someone who's attended a number of developer conferences in previous years, certainly missed that, human interaction, being able to, you have those, what I call DevCon buddies, where you only see them once a year, but you just kind of pick up where your conversation left off the previous year, and you find out, what project they're working on, how their family's doing, stuff like that. So that was the one thing that was kind of missing. And so I'm anxious to see what's going to be happening this fall, as, again, the conference is going to be virtual, but they're, including some additional sessions, as well as some more of that, networking time and things that, the DevCon veterans have come to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure. I know that you're not the only one who also misses like the in-person time, whether it's in sessions or just outside networking with each other. But yeah, pretty cool. John, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing that maybe, I'd kind of put an exclamation point on what Todd has said is the one thing I think you'll learn about the Claris community is developer community is there really is that sense of community, right? And I've learned so much from fellow developers, and I know everyone else has too. And I'd like to think maybe I've shared a little bit with some of those folks that they could learn from me. So it's a great opportunity, and right now we can get some of the interaction maybe that we lose by being there in person, by using social media and whatever forums. But then hopefully next year too we'll be back to in person or some sort of hybrid. But it really is a great opportunity, and I think anytime you can learn in a setting like that from your peers, I think it's a great opportunity for everybody to take advantage of.
Yeah, I would reflect that, yes, it is a great community. People are willing to teach you anything, and I find that it's one of the really great things about this. Okay, so Eric, any thoughts on Claris Engage?
I mean, really, it's the same thing that Todd and John have said too, and the community has been great. As a newer person to FileMaker, I've learned a lot from people at Engage, going to the sessions, listening to the speakers, taking notes, looking at the sample data, but even just talking with people after the sessions or in between things, I've picked up a lot of different FileMaker and development techniques, and everybody there is friendly and they're all willing to help in any way they can. It has been very different for us this past year because we're used to running a booth and all the social interaction and sort of being in the mainstream of all the social stuff. And so this year was a little different for us as a company, but it was good too. We got a chance to look at all the sessions, and like I think John mentioned, is interacting more on social media, trying to get the interaction in that way as well. So this year was very different, but it still was a very good experience.
Yeah, it is different, but yet it kind of, since it was online, it did reach to a variety of people, in which when you're interacting, whether it was through Claire's Engage or social media, it was kind of interesting to see the interactions with people all around the world from that. Cool. Let's go to a question that we had for conversation. This is from Greg. This is on more of when you're starting to create a database. What is the best way to go about it? Determining how flat or relational to start your database. Todd, do you want to start talking?
I know is the appropriate answer. It depends. Probably not. I would say I know kind of our approach is, and again, because of having been around the platform for a while and being able to attend those sessions at DevCons and Engage and things like that, is that there is a performance benefit, of course, by keeping what FileMaker developers refer to as narrow tables, where you don't want to have one table with everything in it, because of how things are going to be displayed on a layout or how you're going to do your reporting. So this, from a performance standpoint, certainly you lean in favor of making it as relational as possible. But I know even in our own development, there are times where, because of how you need to report on the information, that it's certainly not a hard and fast rule where you kind of violate those rules on occasion. And obviously, as you're evaluating the data that you're going to be starting with, anywhere where you could see someone say, well, we're only collecting one phone number or one email address, just to throw out an example. But anytime they say most of the time or 99% of the time, that's when you want to make allowances so that you can have that more relational, because the time you say, okay, well, they're only ever going to have one of this thing, all of a sudden they're going to have, well, we could have one or many, and so that's where it's just better to go ahead and start off building it in that relational standpoint as opposed to a flat file. So I hope that helps. Okay. I don't know if Eric has anything he wants to throw on there too.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of nailed it too. The database normalization is the first way I would look at that. So if you see repeating names of fields in a table, that's when you need to start looking at separating it out into a relational. Like Todd mentioned with telephones, if you start seeing telephone number 1, telephone number 2, telephone number 3 in one table, it's time to split that out and put it into a relation, like a separate table, so that you can relate them. Flat works, but it gets messy quick, especially as you start adding those new fields and stuff. So it's always better to separate out some of those things. If you're not familiar with normalization, there's lots of great articles online. If you just Google database normalization, it'll give you, there's usually 3 steps to normalizing a database, I think it is. But there's some great articles on that as well if you need help with it.
Yeah, I think so. That is kind of a common practice with data normalization, in which I would say that you might have that experience with using SQL too, right? Okay.
Yes, sorry.
That's all good. Judd, would you like anything to add?
Yeah, I guess, the only thing I would kind of add is when I do a lot of my development work, I'm more like the prototype proof of concept guy, so I usually start out very flat in terms of structure, knowing that eventually I'm just gonna say, here, Todd, Eric, Laura, now make it work, but don't be afraid when you're sitting there thinking about how you want it to work. Don't be afraid to flow chart. Don't be afraid to do wire framing. Some of that helps you think about the buckets that your data is going to fall into, and it can help you think about the structure pretty quickly. And the first thing too is a lot of people will say they're building a solution and, oh, I need to bolt on a contact thing, right? Contacts is always one of the first things that a solution kind of needs, because you got all this information about somebody that you're dealing with, and you don't necessarily want that all the time as part of whatever or data. So you're gonna get relational pretty quick. Um, I think if you ever need any help with the contact stuff, I'm sure that we've got something on the website, or Laura, somebody can get you access to the contacts, starter solution. But yeah, you're going to get relational pretty quick. But you know, feel free to take the time to stand back and look at what you're doing, and don't be afraid, like I am, to just draw it out, right? And start saying, where should this information really fall? So
Yeah, I agree. Preparing or planning can be really helpful in the long run in building your application. Okay, let's move on to another question. It's also from Greg. Todd, you mentioned something about performance issues. If you build stuff with Anchor Buoy, if you get too deep in it or too Jane, how would that affect sort of performance?
A lot of it's going to depend on how the users are accessing the database, because one of the things that I learned early on is that if you have a table that's got, just say, 100 fields on it, but you have a layout that displays one of those fields, when FileMaker goes out and pulls down those records, it's pulling the entire record, not just the one field that's going to be displayed. And so that's where, again, it goes back to that argument for the, having the narrow tables and things being relational, because until that related data is displayed, FileMaker doesn't need to go up and get it off the server. That's especially important, like if you're doing something with FileMaker Web Direct, or an iOS device that's accessing something over the WAN. You could have some issues where you have that part of performance is affected because it's downloading field information that it doesn't need because it's not going to be displayed. But on the flip side, I know one of the areas where we've run into where we've kind of had to flatten the database, if you will, is that sometimes when you're doing reporting, if you have calculated fields that are based on information that's in one of those related tables, FileMaker it can't store that calculation, so FileMaker has to calculate that on the fly, and so that's where you can end up having problems with your reporting speed, because it has to go through all these calculations to be able to consolidate that report. I mean, don't be afraid to just go ahead and give it your best guess and try it. You plan it out, like everybody's been kind of saying. You build it, but don't be afraid to make the change if you realize, well, I started out very relational. That's not quite doing what I want because of the specific performance issue. And then on the flip side, if you start out with a flatter file and then realize, oh, I don't really need this information except in these two cases, then you can go ahead and split that off and then make things a little more relational. So I mean, typically we haven't had a whole lot of trouble with getting too deep into the Anchor Buoy method, because that's kind of our default scheme. But a lot of it comes back to how you're handling some of the calculations that may be based on those relationships.
Yeah. Calculations can be weighty. It can handle quite a bit of records, but with relationships and calculations, it can get weighty. But you can handle that differently with different scripts and such like that. Okay, great. I think that's all the time we have today for different questions. Thank you all for being here and joining discussion. You all had great things to say, and it's great to hear about your stories with Claris and FileMaker too. A lot of different perspectives from different backgrounds from here. So with that, I am going to wrap up. Okay. Thank you all for being here and for watching and participating. If you asked a question or commented, If you liked this, please subscribe and share it and give a like with the thumbs up. If you also see the bell with an icon, you can click that to get notifications for whenever we live stream. Again, if you want to be entered into the raffle, you can add a comment or fill out our survey. Make sure that we have your email, whether it's commenting or through the survey, so that we can get that gift card to you. And in any case, we hope that you got something from this and enjoyed your time here. I certainly enjoyed discussion today, and we are glad to have served you a lunch and learn.